Welcome, everyone. We are so thrilled to have you here today for another one of our Conversations in Consciousness Down Under. So, I am Rebecca Hulse. I am a certified facilitator of Access Consciousness. I am also the regional coordinator for the Asia Pacific region for Access. And I have with me another phenomenal certified facilitator of Access Consciousness who could not actually be further away while being in the same stratosphere of Down Under. I'm in New Zealand, and the wonderful Alexandra Nichols is in Perth, right?
Yeah, Perth, yeah. Western Australia.
So we have broadband traversed across both ends of the hemisphere, and I am excited about this topic, which is
awareness and acknowledgement go hand in hand.
So pretty broad topic, pretty unusual and yet common, because unusual in terms of that awareness and acknowledgement are not two things that are generally actually talked about in everyday conversation, but this is a conversation in consciousness. However, it is quite a big conversation in access consciousness, which is the modality that Alex and I, sorry, she's Alexandra on here, but she's Alex in my head. So
yeah, I'm Alex.
Yes. We have formal names out. I mean, realistically, we should just put Hulse up as mine because that's my nickname. So call it what you will, but we're here to have a conversation about these two. And if you're joining us, come and say hi in the chat. If you have questions, we'll pick them up out of the chat. And it's great to see some of you here already. Hey, Nicola. Hey, Jamie. But I just want to dive right in and get started. So first, let's ask some basic questions like, what is awareness? Like, Alex, what is awareness to you? Like, what do we mean when we say awareness?
That's a great question. So when we're talking about awareness, it's basically when you ask someone a question, the information that comes to them, that is their awareness.
Mm.
And one of the things that's really important when someone's talking to you about what their awareness is that you acknowledge that awareness as being correct for them. Because even though it may not be the same thing for other people, that awareness is specific to them and it's correct for them.
And I think this is a very important conversation right now because, we have so much polarity going on in the world, so much separation, a lot of anger, anxiety, confusion, arguments over the internet, trolling, all kinds of things that are creating havoc in our lives because we don't get on or we don't have the same opinion. And one of the things that I've been seeing quite recently is something that's called cancel culture. So anything that doesn't agree with the ideal just gets canceled. So there's no ability to have what we would actually call in Access an interesting point of view about something. It may not be correct. It may not be something that creates greater, but it's just their point of view. And so for having this conversation of that, your awareness is actually just for you. It doesn't have to be relevant to anyone else at all. It doesn't have to be information that holds fast and is permanent. It could just be a fleeting moment where you get a piece of information that works for you in that particular moment of the day. And I think this is a breath of fresh air when, we have so many people that are trying to do things permanently, that are trying to come to new right decisions or, create a modern point of view, basically. But what if we weren't trying to create something so permanently? What if we could just go with whatever was our awareness in that particular moment? Hey guys, it's great to see you all. I love seeing your names come up in the chat. Alex, I don't know if you have anything that you want to add to this conversation. I know I can just talk forever.
No, that's totally fine. What you said was great. And yeah, obviously having that tool of interesting point of view is so important at the moment, especially when you've got armchair warriors coming at you. I guess one of the other really important tools of access consciousness is heavy and light. So if you're looking what someone's arguing about or talking about. You can look at what's light for you, which is what's true for you, and what's heavy, which is a lie. And it's super important to have that tool switched on all the time at the moment. So what's light for you, and what's heavy about what someone's talking about.
And that's a problem with the access consciousness tools, is that they're simple.
Yeah.
It's like, how often do we overcomplicate things or want to like study something or have this process? And I think one of the reasons why a lot of people that have got a lot of things wrong before or tried things and they didn't work out love access consciousness is because, there's this joke of like, if I don't get it perfect on the first go, I don't want to do it. But with access consciousness, you literally can get the tools right on the first go because they're actually already innately something that you be as an infinite being that has a body. Exactly. And so it's a hilarity moment for me when I see this because, we say light and heavy and your brain goes, but what do you mean? But when you're willing to ask a question and just try it out, see if the tools work or not, you get like a bit of instantaneous result, which can be a bit of a joy because you're like, I'm finally onto something. And for me, that was the case with access consciousness and these tools as I got them. And I was like, these are weird, but I'll try them out. Everything else I've done has been weird anyway. So what the hell? And then with that, trying them out and seeing pretty much instantaneous results. And not necessarily in the sense of that my life was perfect straight away. No, the access consciousness does not make your life perfect. I don't think anyone in access consciousness has the ability to create perfection of any kind. Perfection is just not a reality that really exists. It's something that's made up. But what we have been able to create is a lot of greater worlds, greater realities, greater everyday living. And for me, that's what is amazing about these tools. And even though we've talked about 2 simple tools so far, just asking 3, asking questions, using light and heavy, and interesting point of view, those are 3 tools that can create an immediate sense of relief in your world. So we've talked a lot about the awareness side of things, but what the hell's acknowledgement? Why does this hold hands with awareness? What's going on here? Should we reveal our secrets?
Absolutely.
So what's acknowledgement for you, Alex?
That's an awesome question. So acknowledgement is maybe one of the tools that I've only just started to play with. So I'm by no means an expert with this one. But the best example that I can give you is, for example, when we're talking about Shannon O'Hara's talk to the entities, she gives an example of if you see something move out of the corner of your eye, if you acknowledge that, then it allows for more of that to show up. If you deny that you saw it or second guess yourself, then that like closes the door. So acknowledgement is another one of the tools of access consciousness that like opens the door to greater possibilities.
I love that. And acknowledgement, when I think of acknowledgement, we both have a great friend, Francesca Fiorentini, and she was Italian, and she actually learned English a lot later than a lot of people did in terms of truly having a vocabulary that she was comfortable with. She's known English for a long time. But she has a few words that she has tweaked, whether consciously or unconsciously. That's part of the joy of her. But one of the words that she tweaked in her own way was acknowledge. And I was gonna give away what she says first. What she says though is acknowledgize. And this is a combination word of acknowledge and actualize. And what always brings me joy when I hear that word is because whatever you acknowledge shows up as greater. And so, maybe you have, and so, when things are showing up, that's when things are actualizing. So acknowledgize is this word that is made up. But it's such a beautiful word of like when things have been made up, and are actually coming to life because you have actually acknowledged something in yourself or about a situation and it shows up as greater. So that's one of my favorite little tools, and it brings me joy every time I think about it. For me, I've never been good at, I guess, what people would consider like self-affirmations, or making positive judgments about myself, or, presenting myself as confident. It always came across as fake or not real, or just bullshitting myself. And it was just something that I really couldn't do. So for me, I started finding with acknowledgement that it just had this sense of depth, because it really was something that was true. You can't acknowledge something that isn't real or that doesn't exist. You can only acknowledge something that is actually true. And it's like when someone gives you a compliment, people can say a compliment, but it can mean something that's not true. But when you acknowledge something about a person, it always strikes a true note. And to me, there's a difference between a compliment and an acknowledgement. And it's always strikes me as greater. And when someone acknowledges something that is true for you, or like, say, Alex and I are having a conversation and I say something that is an acknowledgement of her and what she be's, then that truth rings forward in a different way. And it can create something greater for her and something greater for me. I'm not sure if you guys are still following this conversation. So if you are, feel free to post in the comments and let us know how it's going. And maybe you guys have some questions too. But for me, the acknowledgement piece has always been what I felt was missing in compliments, in self-affirmations, in, having a conversation where I wanted to raise the people around me up. Because how often have we wanted to do that? We've wanted to like raise someone up or give them a confidence boost or make them feel good about themselves. Well, what if it wasn't about making them feel good, but maybe it was also about acknowledging the greatness that they actually already are?
Exactly. That's a really beautiful way to be.
Yeah. And fuck's sake, we need more beauty right now. Like, in case you forgot I was a Kiwi, now I swear like a trooper.
We need more acknowledging.
Yes. Violetta says, you got this. Exactly. Sometimes you just want to let people know that you do got this. You're an infinite being, and there's nothing that you could never possibly not handle. That was way too many double negatives for the translators that might be translating this later. Let me try again. You got this. There's nothing you can't handle. That was better. Hey, Eileen. Cool to see some more people here. All right, so we've introduced our topics. We've talked about we haven't actually talked about how they go hand in hand, though. So what does that mean? Why did we say that? Why did we say awareness and acknowledgement go hand in hand?
That's a great question. The way that I actually came up with this was I went, okay, what would our conversation in consciousness like to be called? And that was what came through. And isn't that interesting? I've got no idea what I'm going to talk about. And then you've just done really well talking about the topic. So I was like, oh, thank goodness. Holly knows what she's doing. This is great.
But did you also know what you were doing and even coming up with the topic?
I do have a lot of experience in asking the question and then just receiving the information, and being brave enough to just go with it, even though I had no idea what we were going to be talking about.
Let's talk about jumping in the deep end with no fucking clue. Like, that is a huge part of this. Like, people think that awareness means that you have this cognitive thought that is a well thought out process, and you understand all of the different things and possible elements that could come with this future that maybe you're aware of or something like that. Sometimes you just get like one word or one image or an energy with indescribable, like with words. Like sometimes you get one piece of the puzzle, and then a day later you get another piece, and then a month later you get another piece. Like, awareness is not linear in terms of time. It does not go by the constructs of time that we think are so real and normal. awareness can be every single thing that you just know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so it's like Alex coming up with this title, me going, yep, that's great. And for me personally, when I get something like that, I am committed to being present in the moment. So I have something that always goes off in my head of like, don't you dare over prepare. Don't you dare try and think about what you're going to do beforehand. Don't you dare try and like worry that you're not going to be able to say the right thing, or that you're going to be able to have the right conversation, or doubt that you can contribute. Because how often is that what is going through our heads is like, it's not that we think that we're, oh, I've got all this excellent material, or we're more worried that we're not going to contribute enough than we're going to contribute too much.
Yeah, that's so true.
Which is kind of insane, because how much do we over deliver and over give? Like, how often, like, who's the one that stands out at the end of the day? It's generally the facilitator or the person that so just desires to gift you guys everything that we possibly can. And like, that's why we're here, the Australasian facilitators are having these conversations, are gifting our time for 30 minutes, going live on this Facebook page for free. And it's because, we just desire you guys to have these tools to create with us, to find out what it is that you know. So I don't quite know where I was going with that whole tangent, but it was something to do with when you have an awareness, you don't have to overthink it. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to go down the whole path and have it all planned out and perfect. And believe me, I love a good bit of perfectionism. I really do. Cool. Yaku is flashing some different comments way too fast for me to read, which is great because I'm not seeing everything in the chat for some reason. I'm only seeing some of the chat messages come through.
But at least just some of them. That's really good because I've got nada.
Okay. So Yaku, if you see something that actually needs our attention, just put it on the screen and then we'll make sure that we address it. Because hey, why prepare when you can be aware? It even rhymes. Yes, this is a great thing. Do you want to talk about what Naomi's saying?
Yeah. Hi, Noam. She's saying, and most of those thoughts aren't even ours. That's absolutely true. So another of the tools of access consciousness is, who does this belong to? And if you're watching this and you haven't already done so, a fantastic idea to do is do who does this belong to for 3 days for every thought, feeling, and emotion that you have. If you ask who does this belong to and it lightens up at all, it's not actually yours. It's a really fantastic exercise to do, which opens up a whole load of doors to the streams of possibilities. When you ask who does this belong to, you start to get the idea that you are perceiving a lot of what's going on around you and it isn't necessarily yours.
Love it. Such a good tool. And yes, as John said, you don't have to have it all worked out. So cool. And Eileen's question, how do you acknowledge your awareness? This is a good question because I'm not really sure that it's a how, but let's see if we can walk through a possible process of what it could look like.
You can get present with it.
Yes.
Number one.
Yeah.
Get present with it.
The 4 questions that we teach in the foundation class of Access Consciousness is actually really helpful for this. And so that is for anything that's coming up that you desire to change. You can ask yourself, what is this? What can I do with it? Can I change it? And if so, how can I change it? But that what is this question helps you become aware of what you're aware of. And then with that awareness and with continuing this question process, you will start to acknowledge what it is you know. So choosing awareness is just something that you have. Actually, Diva Diaz said something fantastic recently on a Facebook Live about awareness. Is she said, think of awareness like the gift of sight. So you don't pay attention to everything that you see. Like, say you walk down a street, you see the path, you see the cracks, you see the bumps, you see the road, you see cars going by, you see shop windows, you see people, you see traffic lights, you might see trash, you see different movement going on, you see all of these things, yet you don't always, they don't always require your attention, but you see them and they're there. Same kind of, use of your senses is awareness. You are aware of energies, of thoughts, of feelings, of emotions, of judgments, of limitations, of energetic walls and barriers, of interactions going on between people, of a level of presence and engagement. You're aware of bodies and everything that's going on with them. So what if having your awareness was as easy as having your sight? And as Sharia is saying, there's nothing you can't handle, including your own incredible sense of being aware. So you have all of that sense, just like sight, you have all of that awareness. And then acknowledgement is just choosing to have that presence on one of those things that you're aware of. Because you don't have to use your awareness 24/7 like a muscle of like staring and, acknowledging every single thing in the room. You don't have to do that. Same thing with your awareness. But you can bring something to greater focus, or you can actualize something as greater by acknowledging it. So hopefully this makes a bit more sense about how these two work together. If you think of awareness like your sight, it's always there. You always have it, unless you've got your eyes closed and then you have to open them again. Same thing with your awareness, unless you close it down, open it up again, open yourself up to the world of awareness. One tip, if you're opening up your awareness more, also ask for your allowance to increase. So your allowance is the ability to be aware of everything that without a judgment of it. So often whenever you get really, really cranky, and I'm sorry, Alex, I've been talking so much. When you're aware of something too much for your level of allowance, that means that you go into judgment of what you're aware of. So it would be like, if we go back to using sight as an analogy, you'd be like, oh my goodness, all of that trash is so bad. Why are those people walking past it? There's dog shit on the road. Why does that person have that sign up in their shop? And everything would seem wrong. Everything would seem bad. Everything would be annoying. When you have that, when you're aware of things, you want to ask yourself, truth, has my level of awareness exceeded my level of allowance? And if you get a yes to that, then it's very easy to change it. See, you ask the question, you receive an energy of yes, you acknowledge that you're cranky as fuck because your level of allowance is low. That's the acknowledgement piece. And then you can make a choice to change it. And it's a very simple tool. It uses the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And you just say, okay, everywhere my allowance has exceeded my awareness, I destroy and uncreate that. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, call, nitrates, boys, and beyonds. And everything that doesn't allow my allowance to exceed my awareness, I destroy and uncreate that. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, call, nitrates, boys, and beyonds. If you want to know more about what I just said, you can go to theclearingstatement.com. And check out the wonderful co-founder of Access Consciousness, Dr. Dane here. He's got a video on that. All right, that's way too much of me talking. We actually have a question in the chat, which is, how do I know when I need to acknowledge? Alex, would you like to give that one a go?
Yeah, how do you know when you need to acknowledge? All the time. I haven't actually found a time when I don't need to acknowledge it. Because this is a new skill for me, acknowledgement. I'm great with awareness. I'm really good with allowance. Acknowledgement is a new area for me to improve on. So I haven't actually found any time that you wouldn't want to acknowledge what's going on around you. Acknowledgement, as you were saying earlier, Hulse, it's so important to acknowledge someone, because that opens up greater possibilities for them. So, I haven't yet found an area where we don't require acknowledgement. I think that it's one of those things that we should spread around the world as best as we can. Acknowledgement, acknowledgement, acknowledgement.
And sometimes acknowledgement's just an energy too. Like you do it in your head or you just acknowledge it to yourself. Like sometimes it doesn't mean acknowledging it to that person. You have to use your awareness on if the person can receive it.
Yeah, you have to acknowledge you. First and foremost, acknowledge you.
Wouldn't that be amazing if we all could acknowledge our own gifts and capacities and the wonderful things that we contributed to the world?
Yeah. What would it take? Everything that doesn't allow that. Right, wrong, good, bad, or nine, pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond.
I like that as a reality. So guys, if you have some questions for us, we have about 5 minutes left. We'd love for you to ping those through now just so we can get them in time before we finish. And otherwise, I think we can just talk a little bit more. Hey, Alex, where can people find you if they want to find more about what you're up to? Are you
okay,
on
cool.
This website?
I have a profile page on the Access website, and I have a foundation class coming up. It's the 4-day foundation class at the end of August, and it's at my farm with my beautiful horses, and accommodation is available. So it's like an Access retreat for 4 days.
That sounds
it's going to be really beautiful.
And if you guys check out the banner at the bottom below, if you didn't know, you can actually book a private session to get a taste of what actually talking through these tools with someone can be like. And it's with some of the certified facilitators in Australia and New Zealand. So go to accessconsciousness.com/get clear, and you will be able to check out what we have to offer there. And you can find me on the Access Consciousness website. You can also find me at RebeccaHulse.com too. So now you know where you can find more of us. Alex, I'd love to know, what's one of the favorite things that you have acknowledged so far?
One of my favorite things. Oh, wow. I'm not exactly sure. However, one of the things that I would talk about is one of the questions that we can ask when we're going into wrongness is we can ask, is this wrongness actually a strongness? And as humanoids, we make ourselves wrong a lot. And the way of stepping out of that is to actually ask, okay, so whatever I'm making myself wrong with here, is this actually a strongness? Yeah, it's a really great one because so much of our capacity we make ourselves wrong for because we don't fit into this reality, but it's actually something that we can bend and fold and expand on to become a strongness, which is like creating beyond this reality.
And it's so weird how we twist so much of ourselves up. Like, I'm still unthinking some of the things that I thought was like, no, this was definitely fucked up. And then you realize, you're like, wait a minute, you mean that actually means I do this cool thing that no one else does? So it's super weird, but I didn't have any reference point, so I thought it was wrong, but it's actually not, and it's actually really cool.
Exactly.
You're not crazy if you have thoughts like that. You're just someone that has had a lot of capacities and found very creative ways to diminish them. And we get it. We really do.
Exactly. So whatever everyone is making wrong about themselves, which is actually a strongness, can we now please destroy and uncreate all of that and acknowledge it?
Yeah.
Pod, poc, shorts, boys, and beyond.
Awesome. What a cool conversation.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Cool. Well, guys, this is another taste of what Access Consciousness has to offer. We've shared a bunch of tools that you can play with just through using this Zoom. And, if you want to find out more about Access Consciousness, go check it out and follow your awareness and acknowledge what it is that you would like to do with the tools of Access Consciousness, because you all have a very different path and you all have different choices that you can make. And that is one of the most exciting parts of diving more into the tools of Access Consciousness, is that there is no right way. There is no wrong way. And we look forward to seeing what it is that you get to choose. And if you did love this video, share it with someone you love, share it with someone you don't like, or, get in touch with us and give us your feedback. We love hearing from you guys. And have an awesome evening, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hulse. That was really cool.
Thank you. It was fun.
Yeah, we should get together and talk more often.
Yes, exactly. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.